Here with this review of Admission and The Croods, our very own Lights, Camera, Jackson.
Hi, we're going to start off this week with The Croods. It's directed by Kirk D'Amico, who did Space Chimps, and two-time Oscar nominee Chris Sanders of How to Train Your Dragon, excellent movie, and Lilo and Stitch. While The Croods isn't as funny or charming as any of those films, it's visually stunning, and it does have its moments. Nick Cage does lead an all-star voice cast as Grug, the father and leader of the last living caveman family on Earth. Grug and his wife Ugga, voiced by Catherine Keener, have 3 kids, a son named Thunk, a rambunctious young daughter named Sandy, part Pebbles, part Bam Bam, part Tasmanian Devil, and a teenage daughter named Eep, voiced by Emma Stone, who is the focal point of the story. Eep is not a fan of her father's rules for keeping the family safe. Grug doesn't like anyone to venture outside of the cave on their own, especially once the sun goes down. He is the ultimate overprotective father. But Eep is tired of living in fear, so one night she sneaks out and meets up with a cave boy named Guy, voiced nicely by Ryan Reynolds. Guy introduces Eep to fire and explains how the world is changing and that everyone needs to move to a safer area in order to survive. Grug doesn't like Guy or the budding romance between him and his daughter, but he does take the boy's advice, and soon the family and their young leader begin a journey to find a new home, discovering many of life's wonders along the way.
Now, Jackson, from what we're seeing here, the film looks pretty good.
Yes, it does. The animation is great, especially the landscape scenes. Nature plays a major role in the story, and there are a lot of wild action scenes that are very well done. And the voice work is also spot on, led by Cage, who's great as the somewhat wimpy caveman, but Reynolds and Stone also have some fun scenes together.
Now, how about the story? Is there enough to keep both kids and adults interested for 90 minutes?
Here's the problem. The story is very simple, and there are only a handful of characters and really no villain, and it's quite talky, which makes it drag often. But I will say, if you do stick with it, the film does take a nice emotional turn in the final act that is pretty impressive.
All right, what's the grade, Jackson?
On the official LCJ report card, The Croods gets a C+. It's rated PG, so it's safe for everyone in the family to venture out of their cave to see it. I just wish the script had a little more bite to it. I actually interviewed the 2 directors of the film, and you can find that interview on my website.
Be sure to check that out.
Yes.
Okay, another film out this week. It's getting a lot of attention. It's called Admission.
Right.
It stars Tina Fey and Paul Rudd. Those are 2 of the hottest comedic actors out right now.
Yeah, and it's being promoted as a romantic comedy, but I don't actually think there's a real genre for this film because it's different from what the commercials and trailers make it out to be. Tina Fey plays Portia, an admissions officer at Princeton University. She and the other members of the department decide the fates of high school seniors who have applied to the school and desperately want their applications to be accepted. The dean of admissions, played by Wallace Shawn, informs everyone that Princeton has just dropped to number 2 on the list of the best universities in the country, and therefore the admission team needs to come up with a special class of freshmen for the following year. He also announces that he's retiring and Portia wants the job. But first, she's got to tackle much more important issues. Her relationship with her longtime boyfriend, Michael Sheen, may not be as solid as she thinks. And then she meets John, played by Rudd, who teaches at an alternative learning school. He quickly informs her that one of his students named Jeremiah is her biological son that she gave up for adoption at birth. And Jeremiah just so happens to really want to attend Princeton, even though he's not a great student. Should she tell him that she's his mother? Should she help him get into Princeton, even though it's against the rules? And John's got plenty of issues of his own, including with his adopted son. And what the heck is Lily Tomlin doing here with tattoos? She pops up as Portia's wacky mom who lives alone in the woods.
There's a lot going on here.
Yeah.
Maybe too much?
Yeah, there are several plots and subplots, maybe enough for 2 movies or a novel, which is actually the source material for this film. And it's impossible to make everything really work together. The pacing is erratic, and this film really doesn't know what it wants to be. A light romantic comedy, a dramedy with heart, a relationship drama. It goes from a silly sitcom scene to a serious confrontational moment, and it just doesn't come together.
All right, the story's a little disjointed. What about Fey and Rudd? Do they make it worth seeing?
I guess Tina Fey gives the best performance in the film, but if you're going in thinking, oh, she's going to be as funny as she was hosting the Golden Globes or on 30 Rock, you're kind of out of luck. Rudd is Mr. Romantic Comedy. He can play this kind of role with his eyes closed, and he kind of does that here. And Tomlin used to be one of the funniest comedians working in the business today, and she doesn't have any good lines to work with. And you've also got Nat Wolff, who used to be part of Nickelodeon's Naked Brothers band. He's pretty good here as Jeremiah.
Admission, maybe not worth the price of admission. All right, what's the grade, Jackson?
On the official LCJ report card, Admission gets a C. It's just okay. Really, this script should have been denied before it went into production. Not a complete failure, but I don't think it's worth seeing.